Hello, gentlemen. In this session, we are seeing the next chapter in the Unit 1 titled Great Indian Philosophers. So, in the previous one, we saw ancient philosophers, and in this one, that is in this chapter entitled Great Indian Philosophers, we are going to see about our Indian philosophers. Okay. So on screen you can see Kabir Das. Okay, he is a philosopher and he belongs to the Bhakti movement. Okay, let me go by the book. Let us see what is said about Kabir Das in our book. It starts like this. Kabir was a 15th century Indian mystic, poet, and saint. So he belongs to the 15th century. He is saint and a whose writings, according to some scholars, influenced Hinduism's Bhakti movement. If you see his writings, okay, that is already we saw that he is a poet, okay, and some scholars, okay, to them they think that his poets or whatever the writings, it has greatly influenced the Hinduism's Bhakti movement. Then Kabir's verses are found in Sikhism scripture Guru Granth Sahib. So we know the Sikh people from Punjab, okay, and this man's verses you can find in their scripture, like how for Christians Bible and for Hindus Gita, Bhagavad Gita, okay, like that the Sikhs have their own scripture. In one of the scripture known as Guru Granth Sahib, this man's, that is Kabir Das verses, you can find. Okay, his most famous writings include his dohas or couplets. Couplets, yeah, two lines, something like Thiruvalluvar's Kural, Thiruvalluvar's couplets. Okay, so this man, that is Kabir Das, famous works includes some couplets. Okay, Kabir is known for being critical of both Hinduism and Islam. Okay, so this man, that is Kabir Das, he has not only criticized Hinduism and Islam. For example, in Hinduism, he criticized about the thread they wear, okay, of some specific caste, and in Islam, to the best of my knowledge, what I read is that he criticized circumcision. Okay, so in these things he varies from the religions and he criticizes the both religions, Islam and Hinduism, stating that the former was misguided by the Vedas and questioning their meaningless rites of initiation such as the sacred thread and circumcision respectively. Okay, just now I told you guys for he criticized, but these are the prime the important one in his criticism. That's what it here in book it is said. Okay, it continues. During his lifetime, he was threatened by both Hindus and Muslims for his views, that is, wearing thread or circumcision. For this, he was threatened by both the uh, people, that is, uh, related to the sects, different sects, that is, Hindu and Islam. Okay, when he died, both Hindus and Muslims had claimed him as theirs. So during his lifetime, when he was alive, his views are criticized and also he was threatened for his life by both the sects. Okay, that is Hindus and Muslims. But after his death, he passes away. Both the Hindus and Muslims they claim as their own. That is, he belongs to their religion. Okay. It continues. Kabir suggested that true God is with the person who is on the path of righteousness and thus considered all creatures on earth as his own self. So, whoever is on the path of righteousness, that is right, good, virtue, okay, they are with the true God and was passively detached from the affairs of the world. Okay, one should be righteous at the same time he or she they should get detached from this material world. If it is so, means that the true God, okay, according to Kabir Das, is either with him or with her. A religious community that recognizes him as its founder and is one of the Sant Mat sects. So, there is one sect of people, they claim him as their founder. And what they are called, it is in your book itself. Its members are known as Kabir Panthis. Okay, so those who recognize him, okay, those who take him as their spiritual leader or whatever it is, okay, they are known as Kabir Panthis, okay, or something like the followers of Kabirs. Okay, and now the next person in this great Indian philosopher is Swami Vivekananda. Okay, till now we saw about Kabir Das, and now we are going to see about the next personality who is mentioned in our book is Swami Vivekananda, and his age is from 1863 to 1902. Okay, it starts like this. Swami Vivekananda was the foremost disciple of Sri Ramakrishna and a world spokesperson of spokesperson for Vedanta. Okay, we know that he is one who participated in religious conference on behalf of India and the person who started his speech with my brothers and sisters. Okay, gentlemen, let us go by the book. So, he is disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, and he is considered as the world's spokesperson for Vedanta, Veda. Okay, it continues. His lectures, writings, letters, and poems are published as the complete work of Swami Vivekananda. So, whatever the work, literary work or spiritual work or whatever he has contributed, that thing has been recorded and published with the title The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. It continues. He felt it was best to teach universal principles rather than personalities. So we find little mention of Ramakrishna in the complete works. So, what is the stand that Vivekananda took to preach or to explain his Vedanta is that he took the universal principles. He don't want to keep any personality, okay, as an example for his lectures or teachings or whatever it is, and that is the reason, one of the reason why in his work we can least found the name of Ramakrishna, who is his guru. This is the reason why. Okay, the reason is that he doesn't kept the personalities as a prime or pivot center of his teaching or lecture. It continues. So we find this we finished. We find a little mention of Ramakrishna in the complete works. This is the reason why we can find least about Ramakrishna in his works. It continues. Swami Vivekananda represented Hinduism at the first World Parliament of Religions in Chicago. So I told you earlier that he gave the speech in religious congregation with what is it, mentioning brothers and sisters. So it is in this one where he was an instant success. So in that religious parliament in Chicago in 1893, his initial beginning, the words, it was very catchy and he was successful in delivering his speech, his lecture. This is my perception. Okay, it continues. Subsequently, he was invited to speak all over America and Europe. He was a man with a great spiritual presence and tremendous intellect. Yeah, this is what we know. Okay, so once again here it is confirmed that he is with he is a man with great spiritual presence and intellect. Okay, it continues. Most of the Vedanta societies which were founded in America and Europe up through the 1930s can trace their origins directly to Vivekananda or the people who heard him speak from 1893 through 1900. So the Europeans or whoever, they had a passion, okay, over the spiritual, especially Hinduism. They were the result of Vivekananda or result of his speech or lecture. After his first visit to the West, Swami Vivekananda returned to India and founded the Ramakrishna order in 1898 after his return from the foreign visit. Okay, that is, he went to give speech lecture on Vedas, Vedanta and Hinduism. Okay, after finishing that, he returned in 1898 and he founded the Ramakrishna order, okay, in India. So this is what is regarding with the Swami Vivekananda in our book, gentlemen. Thank you for your patience listening. Any doubts, please raise your questions. Thank you.